Thank you, Mr Speaker. Tēnā koe, tēnā koutou te whare. It was very pleasing to be part of this urgent debate and very interesting, and I listened closely to the Minister. And I think that there are many parents in this country who would love to see all of us work together in this House on education. But there is some fundamental problems, and the PISA report actually highlights that problem. It talks about slippage. And it also does a very interesting analysis of why the direction the government's taken education policy in is not going to work. And I want to quote Andreas Schleicher. I'm sure you will, Minister, I'm sure you will quote him. As he said, when he unveiled the PISA results, he said, "My organisation is very strong on choice, enabling citizens to make choices, and you would expect that systems with greatest choice would come out better," he said. "You expect competition to raise performance of the high performers, and with low performers put them out of the market. But in fact, you don't see that correlation. Competition alone is not a predictor for better outcomes. The UK is a good example," he said. "It has a highly competitive school system, but is still only an average performer." His comments could be seen as a blow for Michael Gove, England's Education Secretary, who's placed great importance on the findings of PISA and has also promoted increased school choice as a key way of raising educational standards. This has been done in England through more academics and the introduction of state-funded free schools, aka charter schools, partly inspired by the charter schools in the US. Our data doesn't show much of a performance difference. So what Andreas Schleicher from the PISA report is saying is that the direction that the government is trying to take the education system is not going to work. And that's why, deeply as the Green Party would like to get past ideological battles and binary opposition and start focusing on the best, innovative, most creative, most culturally inclusive school system in the world, we have a problem in this political situation. And that problem is that choice doesn't work in education. And so if you're talking about why achievement is slipping and why we've gone down in math, science and literacy, reading in the PISA figures, it's because the program based on increased choice and teaching to test cannot deliver what the government says they want to deliver for all children. And therefore the Green Party has many other ideas that would be more positive. But it's really important to think about PISA and what PISA said in this round, because they are talking about the last 3 years and they are talking about our country in a state of failure, and it is a wake-up call, and it's not actually something the government should be making light of or walking away from and saying that it's an ongoing problem that they were well aware of. Because I have never heard them admit that choice isn't going to work. PISA says, and this is one of the things that I find interesting, that actually one of the most important things is professional development. And I heard the Minister on Morning Report say that she's doing everything that PISA suggested, but actually she's not, because the cuts to science advisors and to professional development in science have been a disaster. And I'm sure I'm not the only MP in this House who's received emails from science advisors, drama advisors, cultural advisors, saying we've lost jobs, which isn't the issue for us. What's happening is the broad curriculum, which we're only just rolling out, is being undermined and narrowed because we are not getting the professional development to allow our teachers to do the magic that they're supposed to do. And so this is a direct contradiction between what the Minister said on Morning Report, that she's fulfilling all of the PISA suggestions, and the reality that instead of greater professional development, a broad curriculum and less choice but more focus on local quality public education, we will get better outcomes for all. And so the PISA information is very worth reading because it talks about the importance of universalism. It talks about the importance of quality teaching and attracting quality teachers. And no one's going to disagree with that. But the problem we've got is the plan in this country at the moment that government is rolling out will not deliver those outcomes. That plan is all about national standards, which is called teaching to test, which is called, they're neither national nor standard. And if you read the latest research that came out last week, you'll find that the NZCER, which is the National New Zealand Council for Educational Research, and Martin Thrupp's study both raise red flags about what's happening with national standards. And they are very concerned about the narrowing of the curriculum. And that's why the PISA results have to be taken in the context of what is not working in this country. And what is not working is measuring the cow, not feeding the cow. And there are many ways we could say that. But the government is not listening to teachers, parents and principals. 7% of principals in the NZCER study said that national standards could not be considered to be robust. And so the other 7% said they could be considered to be robust. So that's 93% saying they could not be considered as robust. 93% of principals in the study said that they could not consider the standards to be robust. And so what we have with that kind of statistic is you can't build one cannot, Mr. Speaker, I apologise, one cannot build a political consensus if the teaching profession, the principals, and indeed many parents are deeply unhappy with the strategies that government has brought in since 2008, which are not strategies for promoting a broad curriculum, individual learning plans and success for all students. I heard the Minister list all the wonderful things that they are doing. I've heard her talk about those in glowing terms. But unfortunately, the slippage, and particularly the socio-economic data that's in the PISA report, shows that the context in which the government is trying to promote the GERM, the Global Education Reform Movement, is not working for them. And that is why, in the PISA study, they have identified this country as failing on socio-economic disadvantage strategies. They are saying in PISA that we are not doing enough for the vulnerable students, and whether it's providing them with food, as my colleague has promoted through his bill, or whether it's through providing them with a broad curriculum, with better cultural inclusion strategies, more qualified teachers, better early childhood, instead of cutting the ratios, which is what they've done to the qualification of early childhood, they can't keep putting up these contradictions. So on the one hand, we've had the Minister say early childhood's wonderful. On the other hand, we're going to cut the 100% registered teachers target. That's an unbelievable contradiction. And if you talk to the early childhood sector, they are deeply distressed by what's happened as a result of that strategy. If you move to the compulsory sector, you have the collapse of professional development. You have the introduction of the most unpopular policies that they could get through. They couldn't get class size through, so they continue with national standards. And teachers are regularly telling me things like, one school is writing in a school report, working towards the standard. Another school is describing it as well below. And there's nothing consistent or standard about the way that schools are describing these measures that they're supposed to impose. And some schools are actually doing two reports. So they're doing one report for national standards, and they're doing another report for what the parents actually want to know about their kids. But I want to talk briefly in the time I have left in this urgent debate about educational solutions. And the Green Party is totally passionate about creating solutions. Tomorrow I'm hosting a forum at Parliament in the Theaterette, you're all invited, where I have some of the most innovative and creative people coming to talk about the solutions that the Green Party and others are doing to make sure this country works better. And they are going to be about facing up to equity, about stopping the teach-to-test mentality, about introducing and supporting professional development for the broad curriculum. They're going to be about looking at schools being genuinely accessible to all children, genuinely free. And these people who are brought together tomorrow are about finding solutions to the challenge that PISA has put out. And I think it's an important duty of all politicians, but particularly the Greens, because we actually think positive solutions and a fairer future are important for all children, that we actually start articulating what will work. PISA and the quote that I just made from Andreas Schlecker shows that inequality is a fundamental issue, and that unlike many other countries in the PISA study, New Zealand's results are getting worse. So we have in the last 5 years a serious increase in inequality and socio-economic disadvantage in terms of education. And the OECD are being quite brave, because they've always been great believers in choice, but they're admitting that choice is failing. And they're brave enough to admit that we actually need different strategies. And so tomorrow we're going to be talking about some of those strategies, including things like early childhood in the language of their own people. So I look forward to talking about this further with you. We need positive solutions. We need a fair future and a good life for all our kids. We don't need the current government strategies.
Excellent. Tracy Martin.
Kia ora, Mr. Speaker.
Kia ora.
And can I first